Welcome to the Shootin' Show. Stand by for shots fired.
Hello, I'm Johnny Rowland, your host of the Shootin' Show, and welcome to today's program. We're so glad to have you because we're reaching more and more people each week with our Shootin' Show. And friends, we need every last one of you. The forces that be in Washington and other places around this country are not going to be satisfied until they have taken literally everything that goes bang away from us. Right now, they're just in the modification. They took the flash hider off this Colt. This is a matched target now. And somehow it makes this gun a lot more dangerous in their eyes. If you have this pistol grip and you have a flash hider, yeah, that really does make a difference. And they think a lot of other ignorant things too. So anyway, it's our job to let the American public know what we as gun owners are about, how these firearms work, how they can be safely handled and maintained in our own homes. And yes, why we need to keep them, absolutely. Well friends, we have another great show for you today, and you know, this Colt match target is an excellent home defense gun. It is absolutely one of the very best, but you know, only problem with this rifle is you can't always have it with you. Well, that's where a little gun like this Ruger SP-101, and this is the new spurless hammer model in .357 Magnum. So let's open today's program with it. Now friends, I tell you what, it is such a pretty day here in Louisiana in September. Some of our weather is just about as good as it gets. I tell you what, sun's out here and it is just right. This will be a great day to spend all day out here shooting, in fact, if we had the time. Anyway, we're going to look at one of the most important handguns that I'm aware of, and this, of course, is the Ruger SP-101 and .357 Magnum. And no, we're not supporting Ruger because they bought advertising with us, because they had not 10 cents yet, but still they do have a good product, and we hope that advertising situation changes in the future. But regardless, the SP-101 was sort of a landmark small gun because these guns were originally offered in .38 Special and a couple of other calibers. They're offered in .22 long rifle, they're offered in .32 caliber. But everyone said when these little guns came out, said, well, it's a little big for a .38 Special. If you're going to have a .38, why not have something like a Chief Special from Smith & Wesson or a Colt Detective Special, with which is a lighter gun with a 6-shot cylinder. So a lot of people were saying, well, why do you need all this extra metal and strength for a .38 Special? And the first conversions that I knew of, I heard about through Masad Ayub, one of the better known gun writers, and someone there locally to him in New Hampshire, I believe, was making conversions, taking the 38 Special out to a .357 by reaming out the cylinder. Well, I think the only problem was the cylinder was actually designed for a .38 Special length cartridge, and on those conversion guns, I think you had to be very careful about what weight bullet that you put in the gun. I think they would work with the 125 grain jacketed hollow points. And then I believe there was a special issue of SP-101s that were marked, I think now, and I stand to be corrected, but this is something that I read, that was the original standard size gun with the same length window in the frame that was for 125 grain jacketed hollow points only, because they would fit in the cylinder. Well, Ruger came along and eventually lengthened the frame window some, so you can put any .357 Magnum bullet that's out there commercially in these guns. We have tried up to 180 grains in this little gun, and they work just fine. It had enough space there. But one of the advantages that the Ruger has had is one of strength. Now you can tell in comparison to the .45, it's quite a bit smaller. Now it's bigger, say, than a Chief Special, a Model 60 Smith & Wesson. It is certainly bigger than that, but it is still a small gun. Now you know me, we're not going to encourage anyone to break the law, but in a lot of areas around the country, you can get concealed handgun permits. And as we keep talking about, this is such an important gun. Probably the greatest defensive gun that ever happened is a 12-gauge shotgun. But you can't always have the 12-gauge shotgun with you. This is a full charge .357 Magnum, And we've seen some velocities out of the Rugers that have been pretty impressive. In the Model 60 Chief Special that we had on the program here recently, we got excellent performance from the Corbine 38 Special. And of course, with any loading, Corbine is going to be, in most cases, pretty much ahead of the other manufacturers. But we were getting over 1,100 feet per second with a 110 grain bullet out of the little Chief Special. Well, this gun matched the Chief with the Corbine 38 Special, but when you put the Corbine 357 Magnum, it bumps the velocity up to about 1,300 feet per second with the 125 grain jacket hollow point. And that's about 175 or so feet per second increase over even the Corbine 38 Special in this little gun. And yes, in that range, it does give the 357 does have quite a bit more power. Now then, one of the advantages you have, of course, with any 357, we have a couple of target wad cutters in the gun. Then we have a couple of another company's regular 38 Special. Then we have a Corbine load in the cylinder now. And it's so easy to shoot due to this rubber grip. It absorbs a lot of the recoil. Some of the other manufacturers, Taurus and Smith & Wesson, now are starting to offer small 357 Magnums. And I haven't shot either one of the other two, but the SP101s with this rubber grip, even with a full charge load, is just not that bad. We'll take a look at it in my hands with the 38 Special wad cutter, which is very mild load. Just watch here. See, just almost no recoil at all. An excellent training load. The load will also be good for pests or certainly learning to shoot the gun if you have someone that's recoil sensitive. Now then, here is from another manufacturer other than Corbine, one of their Plus P38 Special loads, and we'll try it. See, just not very much, just not recoil. Now then, we have a full charge Corbine 357 Magnum, 125 grain jacket hollow point, moving at 1,300 feet per second. Let's take a look at it. See, a little more recoil and certainly more noise, but nothing extremely severe. It's just the Ruger people really did a nice job on engineering these little guns for double action shooting. And of course, it is a 5-shooter, by the way. Yes, I knew it was. We were out of bullets. The advantage that this spurless hammer has, of course, you still have a hammer here, but you do not have a full cock notch. It is double action only, like some of these semi-automatics, like the Glock, like the Smith & Wesson Sigma, like a number of others now. It's double action only. And some police departments have been modifying their regular double action revolvers, removing that full cock notch, because there are cases of some of the officers getting in a dangerous situation or whatever, and to show that they mean business, had their gun out, they went ahead and cocked it. Well, that's a dangerous situation when you have a cocked handgun, cocked revolver, facing who knows what the individual that you may be holding, who knows what they've done, but it is a dangerous situation. There's no need to cock that gun with a double action revolver. You might have your finger close to the trigger. But so some of the police departments, to avoid liability suits, remove that full cock notch. Anyway, this is really a neat little gun. There are speed loaders available. The same speed loaders that fit the Chief Special will also fit the SP101. That's been our experience. And of course, with the spurless hammer, the whole point is you can have the gun concealed, and yes, we know that gun is empty. You can have the gun in a pocket or in a holster or a purse, and see, you can pull it out without anything snagging. Now, from one who knows, I've carried these small revolvers at different times for years, and yes, that hammer it'll hang anything that gets in the way, coming out of a pocket or anything. This is really a good idea. Now, what we're seeing is the trigger spring or the hammer spring seems to be a little bit harder than on other SPs that we've tried, and I suppose since you don't have as much weight on the hammer, remember now you're missing that spur, that it would give a little extra push or a little thump there to that firing pin. It is not terribly hard. Someone with arthritis or something like that might have a little difficulty with it, but I certainly don't think it is that particularly difficult. And of course, the Rugers have built an excellent reputation for reliability and durability. And yes, anything mechanical can malfunction, but I tell you what, these are about as reliable as firearms get. Now then, friends, you can see we're missing the spur here on the hammer. It works like most other Ruger revolvers, the double action revolvers anyway. Press the cylinder release here and swing the cylinder out to the left. It is a 5-shooter. It has plenty of metal around each hole there in the cylinder. I can see our target's waving at us down there. Yes, a little breezy out here today. Anyway, the of course ejector rod here, very smooth. It has quite a bit of character actually. Of course, the grip is rubber, and the spur from the frame actually comes down in here, and it's completely surrounded by rubber. And you have a couple little plastic side panels here. But the sights are pretty good, somewhat rudimentary, but they are effective. Now see, all you have to do is just pull the trigger through like so, and it cocks and releases the hammer. So a very nice little package, as we were saying earlier. All right, friends, let's load our SP101 here. And remember, those speed loaders and speed strips are available. And that's one of the neat things about a revolver. You can load them one at a time if you want to. Simplicity here. All right, let me check my hearing protection, because this .357 Magnum is loud. And let's take some shots with it. We have our bullseye out here at a few yards. See, it's just not that bad. And let's take a look at our group. Now friends, that's fairly rapid fire. We have 5 holes here out here at about 10 yards or so. And that's just not a bad group considering a full charge .357 Magnum, fairly rapid fire. Well friends, the SP101 .357 Magnum with the spurless hammer there, the slick model I guess we could call it, is one of those guns that some of you, like that credit card company says, don't leave home without it. This is one that you certainly could carry with you. It would be an excellent gun for concealment or a backup gun. For that matter, with the power of this thing, it's got to be a good first gun for a lot of people. And it is one of those guns that is not very obtrusive in its size and its weight. And again, for its power, it is one of the very best combinations available. So, the SP101, it definitely gets a passing grade from us.
Don't go away. The Shootin' Show will be right back after these very important messages.
The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
You know, friends, one of the most important things that we've been talking about here on the Shootin' Show is the health club. If so many of you own pets, and some of you have farm animals, and you know, coming from a farm background myself, I'm well aware if you feed these animals the best food possible, if you give them the proper nutrients, they perform better, they grow faster, they're healthier. We have a local racetrack here in Shreveport-Bossier, and some of the horse people, they go to any expense, literally feeding those race horses the most high-powered, protein-rich foods with all sorts of different nutrients and vitamins, because their horses run faster, their horses perform better. Well, I've seen this on more than one occasion. I've seen horse trainers that had the finest of everything nutrient-wise for their horses, and then for themselves, they'd go get a hot dog for lunch or something. You know, they didn't take care of themselves. They'll take care of their pets and their animals, not themselves. Friends, I don't know what is in some people's minds about that, but our body is so important to our overall existence. Our physical health is directly related to our emotional and mental health. Now, you know what, friends, here on this shooting show, we are literally in a fight for survival for our country. We need every one of you to be mentally and physically fit, one, so you can vote, so you can campaign, so we can take part in our society and our government. Well, friends, the best thing that I know of that has happened in many years to me is the discovery of these wonderful products with our health club. It is absolutely fantastic. For someone like myself, I'm 46 years old. I don't know if I felt this good when I was 25 or 26. I really don't. This is for real. This is no joke. Try it for 30 days. They have a 100% money-back guarantee if you don't feel better. So give us a call now. Get involved with our health club. We have some wonderful opportunities available. If you'd like to get involved in selling some of these products, we can help set you up. We can do that. Give Bobby a call, give us a call, 1-800-895-7916, and call us about this health club. Give us your name and address and phone number. Someone will get back to you. If you've called in the last few weeks and someone hasn't gotten back to you, well, sometimes they'll lose something. So please give us a call back. And friends, let's do it, because by making all of you feel better, one, it certainly helps our shooting show, but it's going to help you most of all. So let's do it today. Don't put it off. Friends, for information on the Shooting Show Health Club, give us a call, 1-800-895-7916. Leave your phone number, your address. We'll have someone get back to you immediately. Again, the Shooting Show Health Club, 1-800-895-7916. Friends, let's do it today.
Did you get checked the mail?
I had today, no. Well, friends, we hope you're enjoying our program because we're certainly enjoying bringing it to you. My esteemed colleague here was lecturing me a moment ago. You heard during the opening of the program that here we are featuring a Ruger handgun, and Ruger's never bought 10 cents worth of support or advertising with this program. Judge here said don't even give her name at all.
I think it's ridiculous to give people just grossly, totally free advertising when they don't do anything for you. Now, if they purchased a spot on the program, then of course I wouldn't care. But
well, Ruger's only had about, since we started doing the program, they've had probably $30,000 worth of free advertising. But of course, we're trying to bring you the information on the product itself. And, you know, that's something that we occasionally talk about. It's so irritating. The gun industry has just not seen the need for gun television.
well, Johnny, Ruger makes a hammerless gun like that. Smith makes a hammerless gun like that.
Yeah, they do.
Taurus makes a hammerless gun like that.
Yeah, they do.
And I don't know who else, probably several others. And why advertise one? Let our listeners exercise what I'm sure is their excellent judgment to go by the local stores and take a look and see which one they like.
Well,
they may do that anyhow, but now you've already got them started on the Ruger, and it irritates me that here we have the only national television program featuring gun ownership, and none of the big wheels, the major numbers in the gun industry, Winchester, Remington, Ruger, Smith, Colt, Marlin, who else?
Well, just
Glock.
pick one. They don't see the need for letting, unfortunately, and you know, this is one of the reasons we're in the mess we're in as far as gun ownership. The people in the industry just have stood back and have not grasped the fact that, look, the anti-gun people, if we don't reach America, that's the key. We have to reach grassroots America. We have to reach every one of you, because and plead our case as gun owners and why we have these firearms. And what has happened in the past, well, they figure, well, we'll pay the NRA or whatever else, and they'll take care of it. Well, guess what, friends? That has not worked.
I want to add the NRA to that list. They haven't supported us either. A little bit, once upon a time, but never, always. And incidentally, Gun Owners of America have. I'm just I'm sufficiently disgusted with these major manufacturers where I figure that we ought to quit giving them free advertising. Sure, we're going to show their wares because that's what we're here for. But we quit using brand names. That's the first thing I said to Johnny after I saw the opening of the show. I said, Johnny, I thought last week we decided that we were going to quit giving these people free advertising.
Well, maybe some of our viewers will get on the phone and the fax machine and whatever else and give some of these manufacturers a call because, friends, it is so important. You know, that's why the media has literally, the organized media, has had a field day. The socialist and the left-wing types, the anti-gun types, they do not represent the views of the majority of the Americans. And literally, they've had a field day making us as gun owners look as bad as possible. Look at, if you don't believe that, look at television, so many of the programs and so many of the movies that are produced in Hollywood. Look at the hatchet job that they do on gun owners. And plus, there are other things tied in. Conservative America is tied in with gun ownership. You know, you asked here a few weeks ago, you talk about what's the definition of a cult. If you have sincere, strong religious beliefs, well, you suddenly are considered a danger to the government now. I mean, that's outrageous. It's insane. If you're a gun owner, if you're a conservative, if you believe in having some say in what your school system does, well, see, you may be a cultist, huh, Judge?
That was the definition that we had there. I asked you about all those questions and decided you fit the profile of a cultist. Incidentally, that gets us to the Ruby Ridge hearings. This week, the hearings before the Senate subcommittee, this one particularly chaired by Arlen Specter, who's not my favorite Republican candidate for president, but he is doing a splendid job on that committee. A splendid job. They're giving the FBI and the BATF all unmitigated heck. Of course, they deserve it. They deserve it. The government's already admitted they're wrong.
Have they actually had an admission of guilt?
Well, they had to have. They're paying them $3.1 million. That gets pretty wrong in my book.
Well, I'll guarantee you, but aren't they sort of saying, well, we made some mistakes?
Well, they did.
It's only a mistake because they got called on the carpet about it. Only a mistake because they got caught, huh?
If it hadn't been for these hearings coming up, I don't believe they would have ever agreed to do anything. It's been 3 years now, and it's taken that long to get something done.
And if the Republicans had not gotten in last fall, there would be no hearings. Don't you agree?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. There wouldn't have been any hearings. Although not a member of the committee, Senator Larry Craig from Idaho was invited to participate as a representative of his home state, and also a representative from Idaho, Senator Grassley, I believe it is, not Idaho, Iowa, where I think that Randy Weaver is now living. The NRA has made arrangements to get transcripts of the hearings on a daily basis at $9.95 a day. Well, it's going to be 10 days. That's $100, no matter how you cut it. I didn't want to listen to all of it anyhow. I've been watching it at night. But I did order the first 2 days transcripts. That's when Randy Weaver was on.
Well, did you see that thing with Sam Donaldson and Randy Weaver? Has it been on yet? I think it has. I saw some previews of it. Even Sam Donaldson is sympathetic to Randy Weaver. Even him, Mr. Liberal newscaster himself.
Well, let's take a look. They had over 200 agents there. 200 agents, including the FBI's highly specialized hostage rescue team. I don't know why the FBI's got a hostage rescue team. U.S. Marshals Special Operations Group. I don't know why they've got a special operations
Well, you know,
group.
someone told me recently that the FBI hostage rescue team had killed a lot more people than they ever rescued.
They may very well have.
I don't.
And on top of that, they had a shotgun-toting robot. That if Randy Weaver had gone out and picked up the telephone off that robot, he would have gotten shot with a shotgun. That was a booby trap. Senator Grassley put it. He said there's no room in this culture for this culture in law enforcement. They all come in, and they're more like a military operation than anything else. And that's certainly true with helicopters, with armored personnel carriers. It was a preview of what they did at Waco.
And let's back up a little bit. What had the man done? What had Randy Weaver done to deserve all this government attention and surveillance and all that? What had he done?
I'm a little uncertain about that. Apparently, all of this hullabaloo was because he failed to obey a summons to appear in court.
But they issued him the wrong day anyway, didn't they?
That's right, they did.
Well, and let's go, the law that he supposedly broke, of course, they entrapped him by a couple of fellows befriending him and saying they wanted a shotgun barrel cut off. Is that right? I believe that's correct.
There's been a good bit of comment about that. And apparently it's been developed that the BATF informer, confidential informer as they call him, he testified yesterday, incidentally, behind a screen and with voice alteration, but I'm sure that Randy Weaver knows what he looks like. Public ought to know what he looks like, too. It's been developed that he contacted Weaver. Weaver didn't contact him. He contacted Weaver and offered a very high price for Weaver to cut off the barrel of a shotgun. And you know, that just involves, as some of the senators have pointed out, that involved having a shotgun and going out and buying a hacksaw.
Right. All had to be done.
But they apparently classified him as a dangerous character. Now, why? He had attended the annual convention of the
Aryan Nation.
of the Aryan Nations, apparently just to try to find out what was going on. Incidentally, Johnny, you attended the annual convention of
Where at?
in Las Vegas.
Well, the Soldier of Fortune convention.
Soldier of Fortune.
course.
So, by golly, they may want to look after you, too.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sure they know where I live, you know.
Well, you know, Weaver was up there in Boundary County, Idaho, right next to Canada. He wasn't bothering anybody. All he wanted was to be left alone. You know, that's a laudable ambition. And a lot of us would like to be left alone.
Yes.
And he was tried up there. There was a federal marshal that was killed in the process. He was found innocent. He was found innocent of the shotgun. I mean, of the violation of the Gun Control Act, short barrel shotguns, on the grounds the government had entrapped him.
Well, let's tell them how short they cut it.
I don't know exactly how short.
I believe it was a quarter of an inch to break the law. They had to have him to break the law, and if they wanted, it would have been obvious if the informant had asked him to cut it off, say at 10 or 12 inches, that would be an obvious infraction. But they measured a spot out there close. The shotgun barrel can't be any shorter, what, 18 inches, 18 and a quarter?
I'm not sure. I think it's 18 inches,
18 inches.
Johnny, but I'm not certain of that.
And the guy just measured off, said, oh, right here, and it was a quarter of an inch. Now, friends, let's see how many people lost their lives over a quarter of an inch of shotgun barrel. Randy Weaver's son, his wife, one of the federal people got shot in the exchange, lost his life.
Well, now, Johnny, you forget
And
something.
a dog.
That's right, his dog.
That's right.
Now,
Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
You know, Carrie, I think it's as important for you ladies to know how to use these firearms as it is for us men. But you know, there's something else. We can have firearms for defense of our homes and certainly for sport, but we also need information.
Yes, I agree. I think the New American Magazine is the best source of information available in this country.
Well, I would certainly agree. The New American Magazine is the truth and nothing but the truth. And friends, if you would like to know what is really going on in this country and around the world, if you want, in fact, the truth, well, you need to get the New American Magazine. So here's how to do it. You can get the New American by calling 1-800-727-TRUE, and those numbers, of course, are 1-800-727-8783. The New American, $22 for a 6-month subscription. It comes twice a month. Now, friends, with your new Shootin' Show subscription, they will also send you a free copy of what the United Nations is bringing to all of us. So this is very important. Subscribe today. You know, friends, in times like these, which indeed are strange times, we certainly need our firearms, but we also need the information about what's really going on. Order today. You know, friends, this box of Corbin ammunition and this Wesson 41 Magnum are in fact a perfect match for each other. But it doesn't matter whatever gun you may have, like this SKS or a hunting rifle or a 38 Special or a 9mm, makes no difference, because Corbin is absolutely the best factory ammunition that money can buy, period. And also, friends, when you see a box of Corbin on the shelf or you give them a call, realize that Corbin is helping keep the Shootin' Show on the air. They've been one of our most dedicated sponsors. You cannot find finer people in the entire shooting industry. For information on Corbin ammunition, call them 1-800-626-7266. Again, 1-800-626-7266. Tell them you saw it on the Shootin' Show.
I have dogs. I've always had dogs. Had dogs as a child.
Yeah.
And those dogs were like members of the family.
Yeah.
Somebody comes around my house and shoots my dog, starts off by shooting my dog, he's declared war.
Well, for a lot of people.
For a whole lot of, I expect a lot of our viewers feel the same way. Somebody just comes up and without any provocation shoots your dog. That's kind of a declaration of war.
Well, heck, you know, if they shoot your dog, they're going to move on to you next, you know.
Well, it's a reasonable assumption.
Reasonable assumption. And that's what we're saying, over 1/4 of an inch of metal, because they were trying to entrap this man. Several people lost their lives.
Well, Weaver gave a very good account of himself. He had an opening statement to make, and it was good. He had a good lawyer. The lawyer there was Gary Spence.
Who is excellent, yeah.
I don't know much about him except that he...
I've seen him a number of times.
He seems to know what he's doing.
Yep, he's sharp.
And anyhow, in my NRA facts this week, which just came in yesterday, I got the information about the Ruby Ridge hearings, and of course I've been watching them. You know, Senator Dianne Feinstein, our favorite lady-type senator,
Surely you jest.
is on that committee, and she's even giving them a hard time.
Well, you know, it's got to be bad when Miss Liberal Socialist from California herself gets involved in this. It has got to be bad.
Well,
Doesn't she carry a gun? Doesn't Dianne Feinstein have a gun permit? Doesn't
she
carry
had a gun permit
Had a gun
when she
permit.
was mayor of San Francisco, or wherever it was she was mayor.
Because she's important. What about the rest of us out here? Aren't our lives as
Well,
important
Johnny,
as her?
damn it, I'm as important as she is.
I would think so. A whole lot more so to me, sir. And a lot of us, sir.
The NRA says it's time for Congress to vote on House Resolution 1488, which is legislation to repeal the gun ban. We had a lot of representatives that were elected professing their support for the repeal of the gun ban. It's time to let's count them and see who they are. Ask your representative to become a co-sponsor of H.R. That's House Resolution 1488. We've got looks at the states. We've had some major victories in state races in Mississippi and in North Carolina, where they've got some concessions from the National Park Service about people carrying guns in cars on the Blue Ridge Parkway so they could get to hunting areas they couldn't get to any other way. In Oregon, yeah, boy, the state legislature voted to override the Democrat governor's veto of the firearms preemption bill.
No kidding.
And so they just whipped him. Incidentally, I was concerned about Senator Packwood. Now, Senator Packwood is not one of my favorite senators. He's always been a liberal. But I hated to see a Republican out of Congress when a Democratic governor, I was afraid, could appoint his successor. But it didn't work out that way. Oregon doesn't have a provision for the governor appointing a successor. They got to hold a special election.
So regardless whether Packwood comes or goes,
Well, Packwood's gone. He's resigned.
He has. Okay. Okay.
He'll be out as of the 1st of October. And I don't know when they'll have this election. The date hadn't been announced yet. Governor does set that.
But at least they've got a shot at electing somebody who's decent.
Tri-tote's real easy to use because all you have is a hook on your waist and you have another hook on a strap. Okay, so all you do is you're hanging your gun up like you would on a peg gun rack. There is never anything attached to your equipment when you use a tri-tote. Okay, you just set the gun with one hook behind the trigger guard and the other hook on the barrel. To use it, you just push in towards your chest, pick the gun up to shoot it. Basically, you got 7 different positions anywhere you want to range the barrel of the gun by just taking it off. It's a piece of Velcro strap onto a Velcro shoulder pad. You just put the gun into it, pick it up and shoot it any way you want. I know a lot of people like to walk around with their gun over their wrist. In this position, tucked up under your arm, it's real comfortable, except it breaks your wrist. Set the gun with the hook in front of the trigger guard, and you got the same position, except your hands free always. And what you want to do is you can take your trigger finger right at the trigger guard, pick the gun right up off the pod, and then you got it ready to shoot. Okay? The other position that you have is when you set the butt of the gun right on the hook on the side, and you can just hold your gun for field shooting in this manner, or you can just rest it back on your shoulder, shrug your shoulder, hit the gun, catch it, and the gun comes up. It's that simple to use. A lot of people like to go out riding on their four-wheeler and their ATV or climb into their deer stand or drag their deer. You got a securing strap that just peels back. All you do is set it on the barrel of the gun, wrap the barrel up, and you have a little securing loop down here on the pod. Okay? You take that and you secure that right over the hook of the gun, so you're securing the top and the bottom. You can ride your four-wheeler, you can climb your tree stand in this manner. If you'd like to pull out your deer, you can open your waist belt up, drop your right hand down through your straps, bring your left hand back up through it. The gun immediately goes on your back. Buckle it up, take away any of that slack. You don't want that. Just readjust it. Pull it up tight on your back, and that's the most secure back carry you'll ever have. You can drag your deer out any way you want to drag your deer out. Climb your hands, use your binoculars. You're always hands-free with the tri-tote.
Now, friends, due to the success and tremendous sales of the tri-tote, they've been able to increase their production and get the price down. Now, for our Shootin' Show audience, they're $29.95 plus $6.50 shipping and handling. Give them a call, 1-800-231-1443. Again, 1-800-231-1443. Everyone that carries any sort of firearm or fishing rod or whatever in the woods, this is really a great thing everybody ought to have.
Well, we've got elections elsewhere. You know, that's how I first got on this program, was it kind of as a political commentary, because my interest in this is to preserve our legal rights, not privileges, our legal rights to have firearms and to protect ourselves, to protect our country, to protect our families, and incidentally, as far as I'm personally concerned, to be able to hunt or whatever else people do with firearms. They hunt, they target practice. It's a great sport. It's a great sport.
Well, let's mention about Foster, the new candidate for governor.
Well, in Louisiana, I don't think we have many viewers in Louisiana. May have a few.
Oh, yeah, we have some, sure.
For some reason or other, our cable systems aren't carrying us. Foster, the mayor of Franklin, who is the candidate who is supporting Second Amendment rights.
His campaign sort of built on that, isn't it?
It started off on that, and it's in Louisiana. It's Article 1, Section 11 of the Constitution, but he talks about Second Amendment rights, and Foster as mayor of Franklin, was a Democrat, and he's running for governor, and the day he filed for governor, he changed his registration to Republican.
Well, good for him.
There's some question in Louisiana about whether a Republican can be elected in a statewide race.
Well, it's happened before.
Well, it has happened.
Mm-hmm.
It has happened, and Buddy Roma, who's the front runner at the time, is certainly no friend of gun owners. I can tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
Roma changed his registration to Republican 4 years ago, and then boycotted the Republican nominating convention.
Mm-hmm.
He's off on his own tangent.
Which we're really not sure what that is.
Well, I know it's not friendly to firearms owners,
Right.
And I say that because when he was in the House of Representatives, we had a bill that was bottled up in the Rules Committee that was favorable to gun owners. I've forgotten what it was. And I wrote him and asked him to sign a discharge petition. And he wrote back and gave all sorts of weaselly words about why he couldn't do it, or didn't do it. And then after there were enough people that signed the discharge petition to get it out of the Rules Committee, he then signed it.
After it's going to go anyway.
Now, that's hypocrisy. If you're going to be against something, at least have the decency to be against it. If you're going to be for something, have the decency to be for it. But don't sit up there and try to play both sides against the middle. But these state elections are important. I'm sure the NRA is going to get some questionnaires out, and we'll try to put as much information out as we can. We'll get statewide mailings to NRA members throughout the state, but important. Don't forget to register. Don't forget to work your block for candidates that are favorable to us. We haven't had any real trouble in Louisiana so far, but it's happening in other states. We do have real trouble there, and it can happen to us in Louisiana too if we don't keep up our guard. We had a governor who's got, how many firearms did he say he had?
Said 50 up.
Oh, it was
50
more than that.
plus.
I saw a picture of his gun room. There were hundreds of firearms in there, but he vetoed the concealed carry bill.
Although he has a staff of bodyguards.
Sure he does.
His entourage, when he rolls up, like over to Dove Hunt last year, this man who's currently governor of this state rolls up with bodyguards and carrying who knows what, maybe full auto stuff. I mean, but
Well, that's kind of like the safaris in Africa where the white hunters have a gun barrel, carries his gun for him until he's ready to use it.
well, I guess our governor has gun bearers. He definitely has it. But see, that's what's so irritating, friends. It's all right for some of these politicians or officials who have decreed that their own importance, that they should be allowed to be armed and have protection. Well, what about the rest of us? I mean, isn't that what our country, doesn't the preamble to the Constitution, what does it say? What does it say?
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, create domestic tranquility, and provide for the common defense, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. And I didn't have any notes to prompt.
Well, I thought you could probably wing that. Now, friends, the Great Soldier of Fortune Convention is coming up in September 27 through October 1. And you know what a great time we've had out at the convention in the past. It's going to be held at the Sands Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. I know a lot of you would really enjoy coming out and being with us at the convention. For information on the Soldier of Fortune Convention, give them a call, 1-800-800-7630. Again, 1-800-800-7630 for information on the Soldier of Fortune Convention.
The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
You know, friends, all of us as shooting enthusiasts should be subscribing to Shotgun News, the trading post for anything that shoots. 3 big issues monthly with literally thousands and thousands of firearms bargains. Give them a call, 1-800-345-6923, a very inexpensive subscription price. Again, 1-800-345-6923. Subscribe today. Well, friends, the whole point of this is that everyone in this country is supposed to have equality. We're supposed to have an even shot. That means, see, weren't there some people who wanted to make George Washington king? Didn't that come up?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
But he did not. We said, no, royalty is out. We're not going to have royalty here in the United States. Anybody can start from ground level if they have enough brain and enough self-control, which is debatable for a lot of people, but still they've got a shot at it. They've got their chance at achieving whatever they want to do. And I don't know of any other place in the world that those rights are possible, much less insured by the Constitution. So that's what it's about. And it
Maybe
irritates.
Switzerland.
Maybe Switzerland. Maybe. I'm sure there are a couple of other pretty good spots. But here in this country, that's what it's all about, is the rights of the individual. And friends, when we lose that, when we lose the rights, the importance of the individual, just like this Ruby Ridge fiasco up there where the military and the government went after this one family, they decided to crush them, just like at Waco and other incidences that we have not mentioned. What's happening? That means the importance of the individual is nothing compared to the state.
Well, if these agencies can't control themselves, then they need to be controlled by the House and Senate oversight committees or by law. And the FBI was formed as an investigative agency, not as a SWAT team.
Well, you told me something about the other day. Maybe the FBI and ATF, maybe they should be disarmed. Maybe they shouldn't be carrying guns. What do you think?
Well,
Maybe.
as investigative agencies, they shouldn't be.
Let the local law enforcement people who do carry guns.
When they conduct an investigation and develop enough facts to warrant some sort of a prosecution, then they can turn it over to local law enforcement to do it.
Why not?
That's where it ought to be. That's where it ought to be. I wouldn't mind them carrying sidearms for personal protection, but SWAT teams, helicopters, armored personnel carriers, no. No, no. The mark of dictatorship has always been the use of the military or a federal police, a national police force, to subdue the citizens, and that's wrong.
Well said, sir.
Throughout the 1600s, many attempts were made to improve upon the ignition of the matchlock. Some of these you might be familiar with, such as this wheel lock. Though very reliable, the wheel lock was slow to operate, expensive to manufacture, and difficult to maintain in the field. The wheel lock used hardened iron and a lump of iron pyrite in order to throw sparks and ignite the charge. This idea carried forward using hardened iron and a piece of flint and resulted in another weapon, the snaphance. After suitable modification, this evolved into the flintlock. Our sample today is a reproduction of a British Brown Bess and is quite representative of all flintlock smoothbore muskets. Though it may look a bit strange today, the flintlock was, for its day and age, quite simple and reliable. A hammer was mounted on the side of the weapon, powered by a spring and released by a trigger. This hammer had a set of screw jaws which held a piece of flint rigidly in place. At a point under the hammer's arc of travel, a touch hole was drilled to the interior of the barrel. Underneath this touch hole, a pan was mounted on the side of the weapon in which priming powder could be placed. On the forward edge of this pan, another spring-powered part, the frizzen, was mounted on a hinge. This frizzen served double duty. When the weapon was cocked, it covered the pan, keeping the priming powder in place. When the hammer was released and traveled forward, the flint struck the upper wing of the frizzen, causing sparks and knocking the frizzen forward. These sparks then fell into the pan, igniting the priming powder. As manufacturing and metallurgical skill increased, the weapons were made stronger. The shoulder-fired weapon decreased in weight to the point where a man could hold and fire it without use of the fork rest. Many methods of combining the pike with a firearm were tried, such as this plug bayonet. For obvious reasons, the plug bayonet was not entirely satisfactory. Within a few short years, however, this had evolved into the socket bayonet, wherein a sleeve slipped over and locked onto the outside of the muzzle of the weapon. These developments all came together in the flintlock smoothbore musket, which was in general issue by the early 1700s. The flintlock smoothbore was loaded from a paper cartridge. This is not a cartridge as you understand it today, but simply a paper envelope containing a pre-measured amount of powder and a leaden ball. The soldier drew the paper cartridge from his ammunition pouch and tore the cartridge in half by biting on the ball and wrenching the remainder of the paper away. He then poured a small amount of powder into the priming pan, closed the frizzen, and dropped the butt on the ground. The remainder of the powder was poured down the barrel and the paper discarded. He then took the leaden ball from his teeth and dropped it down the barrel, discarding any paper which remained. You should note that though the bore of the brown bass ran from 73 to 75 caliber, it fired a 69 caliber ball. All flintlock smoothbores used balls of similar undersized dimensions. This was done because black powder, a mixture of charcoal, saltpeter, and sulfur, left behind large quantities of fouling in the barrel. If the weapon was to be loaded after 4 or 5 shots, this gap between the ball and barrel had to exist or the ball could not be rammed home. After dropping the ball into the barrel, the soldier withdrew the ramrod, rammed the ball home, and returned the ramrod underneath the barrel. He then placed the weapon to his shoulder and pulled the trigger. You should also understand that the soldier did not aim. The sloppy fit between barrel and ball made the weapon hopelessly inaccurate. Aiming, therefore, was really of no consequence whatsoever. What you think is a front sight mounted on this weapon is in fact a bayonet lug. It couldn't be placed on the underside of the weapon because that's where the ramrod had to go. In use, the whole thing looked something like this. Our shooter has fired 5 shots in roughly 1 minute and 12 seconds. You can see how much fouling has been left behind on the weapon and on his hands with such relatively little firing. His target represented a formation of men. The inaccuracy of the weapon is readily obvious. The 5 hits from 7 shots total are circled in red. On our chart, however, the brown bass looks quite good. You will note that it has roughly the same range as the matchlock, and yet its volume of fire is easily triple that of the matchlock. Further, the chart does not tell the whole story. With the bayonet affixed to this weapon, there was no longer a need for the pike. Now every man could be issued a musket, and every man could fire. The changes wrought by the emphasis on gunfire were immense. Gone were the tercios of the Spanish and the brigades of the Swedish. Instead, the line formation was instituted. Depending upon the nation involved, this varied from 2 to 5 ranks deep and generally employed volley fire by platoon or by rank. Though the line formation does allow every man to fire his weapon, it is unwieldy. This created a need for drill. The musket's rate of fire depended upon its mechanical manipulation by the soldier. This created still more need for drill. You should also remember that the weapon had to be fired from a standing position, and that most of the time the soldier was working on loading the musket, not on firing it. Since he was 60 yards or less from the enemy, the volleys that came crashing into his ranks killed or wounded many of those about him. The only way to keep the soldier efficiently at his task of loading and firing the musket was to emphasize discipline and drill above all other soldierly qualities. The smoothbore musket in line formation evolved into what we call linear warfare. It was carried to its height by Frederick the Great. In addition to instituting a rigidity in drill and discipline which no other army could match, Frederick also introduced the iron ramrod. Unlike the normal wooden ramrod of the day, the iron ramrod could be plied vigorously, regardless of how fouled the barrel became. In Frederick's army, rates of fire frequently reached 5 rounds per minute, and his battalions took on the nickname of walking batteries. A good example of the